everyone. It's Grandma Sue coming to you from the Pontusic Community Church. I had some people here before, and I thought I was recording, and obviously I wasn't. So right now I'm just talking to you all on Facebook and YouTube. So, welcome. Last week we talked about the daily assignment sheet. Now I got this color-coded one here for you, so you can kind of see. One of the things we're going to be working on next week is our mastery list, and you need to. This is very important. The long-term time tracking, if you need to keep track of time, and your materials list. These are going to be the three things that you're going to use the most, okay? So for those of you who need to keep track of hours, okay, what I do is I keep track, I put the number of minutes on each subject, okay, and for the week, and then I will take that number and I will put it on a long-term time tracking sheet, okay? And, I have across here, I have the subject, okay? And then I have the starting time for this sheet, okay? Now, when you first start out, that's going to be 0 all the way across there, okay? And, but after, when you get a second sheet or a third sheet going, you're going to have time across the top, okay? And you're going to put in the number of your daily assignment sheet, which I put right there, okay? And you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many weeks are in your year, okay? And then you're going to put the time, the number of minutes that you spent in each subject, and then you're going to total it at the end of your sheet, okay? The number of minutes plus the number of minutes that you spent on this sheet plus what you had before, and you're going to put that number of minutes down. Let's see here. Okay, you're gonna add these, have your ending time, add that to this one here, to the starting time, and you're going to come up with your year-to-date time. Okay, and then what you do is you take those minutes and you divide them by hours, by 60 minutes, so you get your hours, okay? So that's for those of you who need to or want to keep track of your time that you're spending, okay? The other thing that you need to be doing is keeping a materials list. Now, all this stuff is in my book. You just have to, if you want it, it's free. Just let me know, and I'll get it to you. I'll either email it to you, or I can PM it to you on Facebook. Okay? You need a materials list. Now, a materials list, you remember doing research papers in school, right? This is what this is. Okay? You're documenting what you did, the materials that you used, okay? Now, I put the date used, okay? I will put from the time we started using it to the end of the time we ended using it. If we haven't ended using it, I don't put an ending time, I just put a start time, okay? And then we will put the item or activity, okay? If it's a book, it would be the name of the book. If it's a game, the name of the game. If it's a website, the URL. If it's a movie, you will put the name of the thing of whatever you're doing here. I put exploring caves and touring Hannibal, Missouri. Okay, Eagle Days, exhibits hands-on craft booth powwow Native American dancing. This is what we did. Okay, Sid the Science Kid. Addition games. Okay, and then we'll put the source. Okay, which is the publisher, URL, TV channel, school, organization, etc. So I've got the publisher for Teach Your Own Child. We've got the Mark Twain Cave Historic District, and then we were doing a game on the computer, so we put the URL there. Sid the Science Kid, what channel it's on, and then the Eagle Days was at the Keokuk Mall. Okay, and then I put the subjects that were used. that it was used for, okay? So that will help you when we go to do the mastery list. You need to keep this up every day, okay? You don't want to, anytime you do a new activity, anytime you do a new book, anytime you do a new website, get it on here right away. Because if you don't, when it comes to doing your materials list, your mastery list, you're going to not know what you did. And you're not going to be able to find that URL again. And you're not going to be able to find that book. And it's going to take you so much more time to do your mastery list. So that's your assignment for this week, to do your materials list. So, and then you have a blank sheet in the book and start putting down what materials you've been using, okay? So, all right. The next thing I want to talk about, we're going to be going into this mastery list next week, but I want to talk to you a little bit about grades and grading systems. When I was a kid, my parents put me in swim class at the local pool, and for like 2 or 3 years, I was in the guppy class. In the guppy class, you had to float on your tummy, and you had to learn to float on your back. And I had no problem with either of those. But there was one particular thing that I just could not do. You had to float on your tummy, and then you had to flip around and float on your back. And I could not do that for the life of me. Just could not do it. And one day, my dad finally got really disgusted with it, and he took me out to this lake that we camped at a lot, and he took me on a rowboat, and he says, "Now, Sue, you gotta do this. This is the butterfly." And then he said, "Now, this is the doggy paddle," and he had me do them while I was in the boat. And then he says, "Get out." Guess what? I learned to swim. Well, a lot of times our typical grade structure does the same thing. It keeps kids from going forth because they can't do a particular thing, okay? My husband is an example. He was never a good reader, and so he didn't get very good grades in school. But the man absolutely loves documentaries, History Channel, things like that. And today, he could probably tell you more about World War II than the generals that fought it, okay? There are other ways to learn. If your kid's not getting something one way, you can go another way, and that's the beauty of homeschooling. They're not stuck there. Another thing that homeschoolers joke about all the time is people will ask them what grade their kids are in, and they're going, "Gee, I really don't know," because he's doing second grade math and fourth grade reading, or vice versa, because kids are different. Most kids are stronger in one of those or the other. They're stronger in reading than they are in math, or vice versa. And the grade structure says, okay, if you're in second grade, you need to be doing this in math, and you need to be doing this in reading. And if you're not there, then you're either behind or you're held back, because they're not they have a hard time giving you challenging kids who need more in one area or the other. And so that just it doesn't work very well. That's one thing, a great advantage of homeschooling, is you can let your kid be who he is. You can let your kid be a second grade reader and a fourth grade math. No problem. Now, the other problem with the typical school system is that this A, B, C, D, F, and the grading system. Now, a lot of grade schools will have pass or fail, or excellent or needs work, type of system, which is great. But the A, B, C, D, F, even that, it doesn't tell you what your kid's doing. because different schools do different things. Uh, like when I was in fifth grade, we moved from Fort Madison to Keokuk. And I was really frustrated because we had done fractions in the beginning of fifth grade. Well, they didn't teach it till the end of fifth grade in Keokuk. So I was going over the same stuff that I'd done before, and that really irritated me. And so an A in one school system in math in fifth grade, in the may mean a completely different thing in another one, even in accredited schools. Okay, and I can't tell you how many times I have had people come to me, kids that I tutored, and they would say, I don't understand it. My kid was getting straight A's through all of grade school, and now he's in seventh grade, and he's flunking. Well, the reason why is because he didn't get a basic somewhere, and he was being graded on his effort, and now they're grading him on what he's actually doing. And so you never know. It's just the other problem with those grades is that it contributes to mediocrity and low self-esteem. I was a smart kid. I could have gotten A's in school, but I rarely did. And one of the reasons I rarely did is because the kids who were smart that got straight A's got teased, and I didn't want to be teased. And then there was the kids who weren't real smart and really had to struggle, and they got C's and D's, and they felt terrible about themselves. It's just, we need to teach our kids according to who they are, and encourage them, not. Yeah. Anyway, the whole grade thing is it just doesn't work very well. So usually what winds up happening is you get all focused on your weaknesses. Oh, I'm not a very good reader. Who cares if I can do fractions in second grade? I'm not a very good reader. I'm not a very good reader. I need to focus on my reading. And so we're, it contributes to a lot of shame and self-esteem, and very, very few children get out of the system thinking that they're all right because of this judgment and fixing weaknesses. What we need to do instead is have them work in a subject at their own pace and compare themselves to themselves, not other kids, which is what the ABCD system does. And if they're having difficulty grasping something, go another way. If they can't read very well, hey, YouTube videos, documentaries, all kinds of things. They can learn in a different way. And if they aren't so good at math, then, let them continue where they're at instead of pushing them. I know that I was passed through, even though I didn't have my basic math facts down, 6 times 7 or 8 plus 9, I didn't know those things. I was pushed through anyway. And when I got up to high school, I couldn't do the work because I didn't know the basics. And nobody really saw that, okay? Now, not only that, but different people have different intelligences. We know that there's some people who are good at math, some people who are good in words, some people who are good at dealing with other people, some people who are good at mechanics, okay? And we need all those people. My youngest son, is an excellent truck driver. He, from the time he was very young, he could back a trailer. And today, it's nothing for him to back into a place that's just a foot wider than the semi-trailer. It's like, how in the world does he do that? But if he'd have gone to school, he would have been told about how he was not good enough because he didn't read well. But he does great for who he is. And he reads well enough to do his job. Wonderful, okay? We're going to talk about reading here in just a few minutes. I want to touch on a couple other things before we go. The first thing I want to touch on is I want to go back over the basics that I feel are important that make me not a radical unschooler, okay? I believe that we need to read the Bible every day. I believe we need to do spelling or math, spelling or vocabulary every day. I believe we need to have some sort of a math drill and a math worksheet. And I'm going to go into the math maybe in a week or two and really start teaching you how I teach math, because it's radically different than what the books do, okay? I also insist that kids write something every day. Little kid that can't write yet draws a picture and shows it to me and tells me what they what the story is behind it. An older kid will write a sentence, and the older kids would write maybe a paragraph or maybe a whole page, okay, depending on their abilities, okay. And I also insist that they either read out loud to someone or they read silently to themselves, depending on their ability, okay. So that being said, I want to go back into I want to teach you my 8 steps of reading, okay? The first thing you need to know is that, well, let's stop there. There is a nerve that goes from the eye to the brain. And that particular nerve develops, the normal age for development of that is somewhere between 4 and 12, excuse me. When we have a little kid that's potty trained at 18 months, we go, okay, which is cool. But if they're not there until they're like 3.5 and they're finally getting there, would you hurry up? But we're not getting all upset about it because we know it's not going to make a bit of difference when they're 30, okay? And we also know that their nervous system has to develop enough, and every kid's nervous system develops differently. Same with reading, okay? Now, we actually handicap our kids because we're expecting them to read at 4 and 5 and 6. And if they don't, then there's something wrong with them. No, there's not. It's just not developed yet, okay? And if you push them before that nerve gets developed, you can actually damage the nerve. You can damage their eyesight. You definitely damage their self-esteem, and they're not going to like reading at all. Wait until they're ready, okay? And the way you know that they're ready is they're saying, Mom, what does that word mean? What does that say? What does that say? They're looking at the stop sign. They're saying, what does that says stop. And they're looking at a sign in the grocery store and saying, Mom, what's that say? Okay, that's when you start teaching them to read, okay? Now, you don't need a fancy reading program. You don't need the Dick and Jane books. They're great to have. I like the Dick and Jane books or the Bob books, the easy reader stuff, but it's not necessary. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people have learned to read using just this, okay? In the 16, 17, and 1800s, when there wasn't a lot of paper available, this was often the only book a child ever had, okay? And Mom would sit down with them, or Dad would sit down with them, and they'd say, okay, that word is L, and OR is OR, and D is D, L, or D. And they would have their child sound out the word Lord, and they would show them the different letters, and they would teach them the different sounds of the letters, and they would read from the King James Bible, okay? And that's where thousands and thousands and thousands of kids learn to read, okay? You don't need all that stuff. You can. It's great if you have it, but if you don't have it, that's fine. The first thing you do when your child shows an interest in reading is you follow along when you're reading to them. The first thing to do to get your child interested in reading, but to begin with, is make sure you read to them every day out loud, okay? And studies show that if you keep up that reading out loud to them, even when they're in their teens, they're much more likely to read silently to themselves for fun. Okay? When you stop reading out loud to them, they tend to quit reading books. It just the age that you stop reading aloud to them and the age that they lose interest in books is very much correlated. So keep reading out loud to them. But when you're reading and your child has said, "Oh, what's that word, Mom? What's that word?" You start out and you follow along with your finger, okay? All right? Always follow along with your finger. And eventually maybe have them follow you along with the finger. Take their hand and say, "Okay, we're reading this letter, this word, this word, this word," okay? Second thing you need to do is show your child what a letter looks like. You can use A, or you can use a letter in their name, and show them the capital letter and have them find that capital letter on the page, okay? And then show them the lowercase letter that goes with the capital letter and have them find that, okay? And then work on identifying letters till you get all 26 of them, okay? And then you need to work on the sounds of letters, okay? The B says B, the L says L, not la, not la, l, but l, okay? Then the other thing that helps with that is that says game, okay? And I'm going to go into that just a minute because I didn't get it all done the last time, okay? All right, let's see here. Okay. My video cut out on me. So, what you do with the That Says game, just to recap, is you put the D, that says, and the word at the bottom, dog, and you underline the letter, okay? And you put, have them draw a picture, okay? Right here I've got B, A, and D, okay? The B that says B in banana, the A that says A in apple, and the D that says D in dog, okay? Now, the first game that you play with it is just a concentration memory game, okay? And when you pick them up, you say, each time you pick them up, you have the child say, "This is the B that says B in banana," okay? And then if they get a match, great. If they don't, put them back down. And then the person with the most matches at the end wins, okay? The next game you play is a Go Fish. Give out 5 cards, and okay, do you have the D that says D in dog? Yes, I have the D that says D in dog, okay? And they get a match, they put it down. And the first person to come out with no cards is the winner, okay? And if they don't, they have to draw from the pile every time, okay? All right, the next one is a rummy type game. And what you do is you have each kid have 7 cards, okay? And you encourage them to make words. B, a, d, bad. And then we'll put that down as their rummy, okay? And the person with the most cards down at the end is the winner, okay? So, and you know, if one person goes out, then the game's over, and that person is winner. Okay, so that says, and that's a good way to teach your children the sounds. Now, how are you going to find those sounds? There are lots of phonics lists out there on the internet. Just type in phonics sounds, and you're going to come up with a list of them. You can also just do them as you're finding them in the books that you read. Maybe you're reading about a sleigh come wintertime, and it's EIGH. So you're going to put an EIGH up here, okay? And you're just going to say the EIGH that says A in sleigh, and the EIGH you would underline, okay? All right, now, you want to work first on the vowels, so that they have, if you've got A, E, I, O, and U down, they're able to, and they start working on these consonants, they're going to be able to put a lot of words together really quickly, okay? And then after I like to work on the vowels and then the consonants, and I like to teach kids that there are, if there's two different ways to say a letter, like the A says it says a, and it says a, okay? And then I also like to teach them things like the two different sounds for G. G's in front of A's and say G. And G's in front of I's, say J, or Y's. So try to teach them those different letters too. And once you've got all those down, then you go to the diphthongs, the CHs, the THs, the EIGHs. And then you want to work on sight words. And sight words, my definition of sight words is the most common words in the English language. If you go in and you type 100 most common words, there's a list that you can get. And I use this as a spelling tool. We start out and they learn A, and they learn the, and said, and is, and was, okay? Because those are all on the most common. And we will learn all those words. And once they are able to recognize those without having to sound them out, reading becomes much easier, okay? And then I also will throw in the basic vowel rules, okay? If a vowel is followed by a consonant and then followed by a vowel, then the first vowel is long, okay? And if a vowel is followed by two consonants, it's short, okay? Look up those rules and throw them into your spelling. I throw them in as spelling. I throw spelling words into the spelling curriculum that I do. If I didn't, I'll have to look. I think I showed you. I'll show them to you again in another video. Okay, so once they are getting some words, learning some words, and learning to sound out the words, have them sound it out, okay? Help them whenever he forgets. Now, don't sit there and say, oh, you knew this yesterday. That's not going to help you a bit, okay? Because kids have jello brains, okay? Their brains can lose things so easy. You have a child who they knew that B says B, and they've known it for a month. And all of a sudden, they didn't get the right color cup at lunch, and it's gone. Because the jello just, okay? Don't get upset about that. That's part of how kids work. Just go ahead and say, okay, we're going to have to relearn that, okay? And make sure he tries before you help him. But if he's getting frustrated, or if he just doesn't know, help him out. That's the way they learn to read. That's the way they learn. Until your child demonstrates that they're understanding what they read, always go back and read what they have sounded out. You go back and read it and ask them about it, okay? And once your child is reading full sentences, stop frequently, and ask them, what did that say? Okay? Or ask them, who was that talking about? Or asking, what did Jane do? Okay? Stop them frequently. And then be sure to praise your kids constantly. Praise, they praise, they praise. That is your number one job as a parent and as a homeschooler. You want to praise your kids. When I was younger, I went to my mom did this class called Adventures in Attitudes, and it talked about how you need to control what you think, and you need to control what you put into your brain, because garbage in, garbage out. And one of the things that was mentioned in that is there was some studies done about how employers and employees relate to each other. And what was found is that for every negative comment that or correction that an employer made to an employee, they had to have at least 7 positive comments, positive touches, positive interactions for that employee to feel like the employer liked them or cared about them. Okay? And if they didn't have that, then they didn't. And they didn't work as well. We are our parents. We are the adults. These are our kids. Okay? And we need to praise, 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 praise. Yeah, we got to correct. But be your kid's biggest cheerleader. Okay? Don't skimp on that, okay? All right, so that's what I have for you today. And next week, we're going to work on the mastery list and our report cards. And we'll talk some more about that next week. God bless y'all. Bye-bye.